Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about designing the truth. Designing the truth in graphic design and advertising, to be very specific. There's a lot of ethical issues surrounding this that we don't really think about on the first hand. Um, when we think about advertising, we think about making things look the best that they can be. And sometimes that becomes a little bit dangerous when we start to tell white lies and when we start to advertise for things that we know are not beneficial to others. This includes ambiguity. This includes lying. This includes omission, which is part of ambiguity, in my opinion. So we're just going to take a quick look at some of the factors that lead us down the wrong path. The big picture is graphic designers have an ethical and moral social responsibility to communicate honestly to the public. This is very important because we have such a large audience. We have impressionable teenagers. We have old retirees who are looking for benefits that are going to help them. We're looking at every aspect of human life that is purchased, that is used by us, a service that we use, or anything else. Substances that could potentially kill us are all advertised by somebody. Generally speaking, graphic designers. We are hired to make products look as good as they possibly can. And sometimes that we have an issue with that. The Road to Hell gives us a little bit of context. A very important designer, Milton Glaser, wrote this essay for an AIG conference in London in 2005. And the first couple of questions make you really think about, and I mean, obviously, you guys are not all graphic designers, so some of this would not apply to you, but you can understand the moral issues surrounding them just by looking at the question. Should we design a package to look larger on the shelf? For instance, when I was a kid, we would always get these bags of potato chips, and we would get so mad at school because we would get these big old bags, and then they would only have like a little bit of potato chips in them. And as I got older, and when I started learning about packaging, I realized that the reason you make those bags so big, number one, is so that they sell. When you're at the store, the first thing that you go for is the bigger item for less money. Sometimes people still want the same brand, and so they will go for the item that is the same size. But sometimes people don't look at the ounces, at the pounds, and you're going to end up with less potato chips in there. Also, on the other hand, I learned that potato chips need a lot of room to breathe. So the bigger the bag is, the less your potato chips are going to be all crumpled up at the bottom. So, I mean, you could kind of explain it both ways. That one's kind of an iffy question. Let's go a little farther down on the list. Would you design a crust for a new vineyard that suggests that the business has been around for a long time? There is something very important about the legacy of a business. If we pull off the idea that something's been around for a long time, we are showing people that they can trust that company. With a vineyard that's very new, that has no real background, their wine could be substandard. It could change frequently. The flavor can have different effects. Maybe you have issues with health inspections that nobody knows about, and They just haven't caught on yet because your business has not been around long enough. Anyway, the point is, we're trying to advertise what is really there, the reality of the product, in the best possible light. Let's go a little further down this list. Would you design a promotion for a diet product that you know doesn't work? Every time I get onto Facebook, I see these videos or photos, before and afters. Oh my gosh, you would not believe how amazing it is. Just take our product and we will lead you off into victory and you will be 115 pounds forever and blah, 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 blah. But that's not real. The best way to get a good lifestyle is to lead a good lifestyle, not to do, diet wraps with toxic packaging that can actually hurt your skin instead of help it. I think that it's a lot of repetition, and eventually, after all of that repetition, we start not seeing that the results that we are getting are not the results that we're seeing on the television. Would you take it a little further with me and design an ad for a product whose continued use might cause the user's death? Now you might think, how would you design for that? How would you create a product for that? It's easy. You lie. You tell only the good side. There are professions more harmful than industrial design, but only a very few of them. And possibly only one profession is phonier, and that is advertising design. I believe it is socially irresponsible for graphic designers to falsely advertise something toxic as something beneficial. And this is why. I'm going to use the most common example of faulty advertisement. Why should we not lie? When we go to Burger King, and I go to Burger King quite frequently, I always get the Whopper Jr. because I know that it has less bread on it and I can fit the whole thing in my mouth. This picture on the left-hand side, just here, this picture has been stacked. It probably has some plastic in it. Those pieces are probably real, but they have been sprayed over with a glossiness that will allow them to look moisturized and fake. Because you have to photograph real food, all of this food is thrown out and replaced with the most perfect version of itself. So this patty was probably cooked like 8 million times before they found the right thickness, the right striping. It may have been made special just for this product advertisement. The actual Whopper that you get, I mean, mine didn't look this sad, but the actual Whopper that you get from Burger King is not as impressive as the one on the left in any stretch of the imagination. And the reason why is because people don't care. People, when they go up to a window, they are so used to being lied to that they will see the image and that will just completely leave their mind. They don't care. Because they know they're not going to get what they paid for. Breeding cynicism. Cynicism destroys companies and also enables them. Because when we become cynics, we stop asking for what we deserve and we start being happy with whatever it is that we're getting, whatever the lie is that they're telling us. Now, let's take this a little step further with fast food. McDonald's claims to be MSG free, but their products still contain similar ingredients like adelized yeast, hydrolyzed protein, and natural flavors, all containing free glutamate. Burger King, the teriyaki chicken place that you like to go to, the pho place that you think you're eating healthy at, any kind of cheese product that is not natural. Parmesan cheese is like 100% MSG, but they don't say it. Along that line, what are other things that we consume frequently? How about pills? Pharmaceuticals lie all the time. Actually, let me rephrase. Pharmaceutical companies survive because they promise one result and don't care how they get there. A lot of medications to handle pain for cancer have serious side effects that they have to take other pills to combat. The ambiguity behind these medications makes it stressful for the people who are taking them, because they start having these side effects and don't understand why they're having them, because they don't read the packaging. Hello, that fine print is really tiny, and how many people over the age of 60 can really read that fine print easily? Let's take a look at this little slide, for instance. The font is really terrible, I'm sorry, but it's about Zoloft. Now, there were a lot of issues with antidepressants a couple of years ago. First of all, we realized that we were handing them out like candy to anybody who said that they were upset or emotional. Zoloft destroyed thousands of lives. To read through this comic very quickly, we follow the experience of a young girl named Molly, who was a teenager that probably received too many pills. Not to say that she overdosed, but to say that her doctor gave her a different prescription than he should have. The doctor did not properly inform the parents that children under the age of 18, children, did not cope well with Zoloft. So many people took their own lives because of incorrect dosage with Zoloft that a campaign was started. Lawsuits were started, particularly the side effect lawsuit. The International Society for Ethical Psychology and Psychiatry released a statement after the Sandy Hook shooting wherein they called for an inquiry into the connection between the act of mass murder and the use of psychoactive drugs. What does that mean? What if all of these shootings today, and I'm being speculative here, have to do with people who were on medication for depression, anxiety, psychosis, were not properly taken care of by their medical professional, or overdosed, or didn't read the side effects for when you stop taking the medication? In their press release, they pointed out that James Holmes, the Colorado Batman shooter, oh, I remember that. I'm sorry. The Colorado Batman shooter had taken 100 milligrams of Vicodin immediately before he shot up the movie theater. Obviously, Vicodin, hello. That has nothing... That probably shouldn't be in there. I'm sorry. That's why I didn't read it earlier. Christopher Pittman was an on antidepressants when he killed his grandparents. I don't know if you remember about that. That happened about 3 years ago. Eric Harris, one of the gunmen in the Columbine school shooting, was taking Luvox, and Dylan Klebold, his partner, had taken Zoloft and Paxil. Doug Williams, who killed 5 and wounded 9 of his fellow Lockheed Martin employees, was on Zoloft and Celexa. Michael McDermott was on 3 antidepressants when he fired off 37 rounds and killed 7 of his fellow employees in the Massachusetts Wakefield massacre.
Alert from messages. Brittany Purvier.
Kip Kinkle was on Prozac when he killed his parents and then 2 children and wounded 25 at a nearby school. In 14 recent school shootings, the acts were committed by persons taking or withdrawing from psychiatric drugs. That is an important piece of information that Zoloft previously had, that Zoloft intentionally kept ambiguous. Ambiguity. What is ambiguity? The fundamental assumption of communication would seem to be an attainable goal. This goal being, make it clear. Objectify the audience. Understand their desires. Appeal to their interests. Eliminate the extraneous, and behold, open communication. Ambiguity is a military term that means to be attacked from 2 sides at once. It's about how we have to process our information. The human brain is a problem-solving organ, a characteristic that probably is at the center of our dominance over other species. The brain frequently remains awake until a problem is presented to it. It was believed that ambiguity was a way of arriving at the truth. Is it? At Foxconn, a company in China, a factory in China, the company had to install netting to prevent its low-level slave workers from jumping out of the building to their deaths. You can see the netting just down here. It's incredible that a business company, instead of finding a way to make their policies better so that human beings could work there happily and live a decent life,